Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel where we review anything and everything. And today we're getting into another X-Men 97 Marvel Legends figure review. But a heads up, this is a non-unboxing review. So if that doesn't suit you, you guys understand in advance. Now, this is obviously Bishop from the 97 line where his image is slightly changed. He has a shorter haircut and I actually like the look of this one. I enjoyed Bishop as he was back in the days as well, but there's something about this one that I just really like the look. And Bishop was always a big character, but I felt like, not that he was ever not displayed as big, but this figure really brings that to life too, because he's definitely like big and like, you know, like, I'm not gonna say bulky, but he's definitely taller and like heavier set than say like someone like Cyclops in this. So that's cool. They do give him the one gun as opposed to characters like the newer characters like Cable, who has multiple guns. Because Cable always had like, well, they only give him two guns, but you know, his guns are larger or whatnot. Bishop always just really carried around one gun. And this was the gun he carried around, even though for some reason I felt like it looked bigger than this, but I guess it's okay in size. He's got the two sets of hands, the closed fist, and then he's got the, what do you call it? Like the trigger hands. So you could kind of swap whichever one you want him to have it. But one other accessory he has is he has the holder for his gun. And I think that's actually a really big plus, that he's able to put his gun away and that be that. He also has the scarf. I don't know if that comes off or not, but definitely it looks like to be soft material. And here goes the wave of characters that you can see comes on the back, along with that picture of Bishop there, where he has his gun tucked away and he's got a nice pose going on. Yeah. So you have in this set Magneto, Wolverine, Rogue, Storm, Bishop, and Gambit. This is the first wave. And it's interesting they put Bishop in the first wave, but I guess also too, because in the animated series, he's not a character that you see way late in things versus in the original anime, he was someone who came in a storyline that was way later. So it's interesting that they give him a larger role in this, which I'm glad that they do. And Bishop was always like, between him and Cable, they're always like the time traveling guys, but just like slightly different. So it's interesting that X-Men introduced having two time travelers in the animated series. They were always characters in Marvel, but in the sense like you didn't have to introduce both of them necessarily with such a big role that they had. But in the X-Men 90s cartoon back then, they really gave both of them this big role where they were always coming back. You were like, when are these guys going to come back from time? Because I know they're coming back soon. And before you knew it, they were right back. And both of their story arcs were really good. But like, yeah, so Bishop, unlike Cable though, where Cable comes from a timeline where he's mostly fighting Apocalypse, and it kind of goes into that kind of space where it's more of like a, how should I say, it's like, this is what it could be. Yes, all the futures are alternate futures, but it's kind of like Cable comes back in time to prevent what's happening there. But I felt like it was not so much significance in knowing the story of what it's like over there, more so Cable just telling you, coming back in time, telling you, we don't want that to happen. Bishop, on the other hand, who was part of Days of Future Past and part of the Days of Future Past storyline, I don't know if he was that in the comics. I believe he definitely was. I'm like 90% sure that in the comics, Bishop was part of the Days of Future Past storyline. But in the animated show, he definitely was a pivotal part of Days of Future Past line. And the thing about it is, his future wasn't so much just one that he's coming back to prevent, but they actually really dove into that world. Like you got to see it. It felt like a Terminator, you know, like one of those kind of like how Terminator was depicted in Future with John Connor. It very much dove into that. It wasn't just like, we're not going to show that environment, but we're going to speak on this time traveling hero who has to save it. No, they showed it. They went deep into it. They showed you that environment. They had villains in that environment that were just for that environment, like Nimrod, you know, and all this other kind of stuff. And it really gave you a lot into what that future looked like and brought it to life. So that way you didn't just arbitrarily go, that's a threat they can't have happen. They showed it to you and said, this is why you're gonna know why we can't let that future happen, because the mutants and the humans are chained up, working for these sentinels or whatever the case is, getting put in camps. This is the future that's going to happen. But also, too, they're not just going to have regular sentinels. They're going to have the introduction of Nimrod, which is like, you can't stop him. And if he gets mass produced, you guys are not winning at all. And it made that threat so real by showing so much of it that you knew the stakes were heavy. And that is what Bishop brought to the table in his story arc and his timeline. A very weighted sense that even now to this day, one of the biggest story arcs for X-Men is Days of Future Past. And it's one of those things where it's an ongoing thing, because in every modern time of X-Men, you're always saying to yourself, that future can happen. And there's never any point in time that that future is not a possibility, as long as there are Sentinels running around. So I think that was always a great thing. As far as his powers go, his powers are always about absorbing energy, and I think they've increased that over the years. And I think I've heard things too where they say that he's able to absorb energy and then now channel that into other things, not just an energy projection. But I really kind of always did like the idea of a lot of X-Men characters being a little more simple rather than being more complex when they start to elevate them past the point that they were in the 90s. So I think always the 90s were the golden age, because at that point, mutants were not almighty and powerful. They were often depicted as below the average superhero, regular superhero counterpart who wasn't a mutant. And I always liked that because it made the characters feel like a lot more weighted, like in a sense, like the odds were always stacked against them, and they really had to push to make it out of situations. So, but I love this interpretation of Bishop. Like I said before, links in the description down below for you guys to purchase on Amazon. And hopefully you guys find them at a good price, because a lot of these X-Men 97 figures are going so high in price. But he's definitely a really cool character. I really love this interpretation of him, and I'm glad that they kind of redesigned him a little bit, because I honestly thought that when it came to figure form, that where he had the long hair didn't always work that well, in my opinion, because his hair, I don't know, this is just me. I would have liked him if they had him like maybe with a ponytail. If he's gonna have the long hair, give him a ponytail or something like that. But where the hair was just like all over the place, it just seemed like it wasn't like a look that I didn't mind it, but it wasn't my more preferred look. He did have times where he had it in a ponytail. I enjoyed that. So him now having a clean shave cut, I really like this version. Everybody's different. Everyone's opinion is different. I really like this version. So there's no wrong answer. But anyway, you guys, as always, like, share, comment, subscribe. I'll catch you guys in the next video.